Lisa Donohue teaches at York Region, and here's my message in a nutshell. She is a fantastic teacher. When you hear her speak, you say, I wish my kid were in her class, because she's just one of those inspirational people, and really, really with it. And she's written books. I'm going to take this away, Lisa. From Pembroke, her books were Guided Listening and Independent Reading Inside the Box, looking at the framework for independent reading programs. And the box has a nice pun in it because she's got a framework for helping us look at different programs for independent reading. And her newest book is The Right Beginning, which I believe is the framework for her chat with us today. And I'd like to introduce Lisa Donohue.
All right. Hi. I'm Lisa, and I've been teaching for about 14 years. And just before I begin, I just want to introduce you to something kind of cool that I just discovered about a couple months ago. I'm going to be using a different presentation format for my presentation today. And the reason I'm introducing it to you is because it's kind of like an elephant in the room. And if the first time I saw one of these, it distracted me a little bit, and I spent the whole presentation thinking, how do you do that? This is a Prezi. Has anyone used a Prezi before? Awesome. Prezi is a different presentation format. I love it because it works just like my mind. It's an explosion of ideas, and then you can navigate through it. I find PowerPoint very linear, and it's hard for me to think that way because that's just not the way I think. Prezi is an online Web 2.0 tool. It's free. There's a 3-minute video if you're interested. It's free download, and it's really, really easy to use. All right, there's my elephant. I'm going to talk to you about the book, The Right Beginning, this morning. But before I do, I just want to mention that one of my hobbies has become people watching. And it's kind of like that book, Where's Waldo? And I've become very, very efficient at discovering and identifying teachers in crowded places. Because we have a very distinct personality about us. A few weeks ago, I was at my son's swimming lessons, and I knew that one of our colleagues was there. Do you know how I knew? Because they were sitting by poolside cutting up laminated letters. Dead giveaway. A few weeks ago, I was at karate lessons with my kid. And there was one of us. I knew it was one of us because they were marking math journals, cheering on their child. And recently, most recently, last summer, I knew one of our colleagues was so devoted to their task because I spotted them across a soccer field, across a sandbox, across a play structure. I knew it was one of us because they were reading the new science document. I recognize the aquamarine spine. Dead giveaway. One of the things that makes us amazing professionals is that we are so committed to our craft. Here we are on a Saturday. I don't know about you, but I have a mountain of laundry that I could be tackling. But here we are learning how to become better teachers. And I applaud you for that. Thank you. One of my very, very good friends, new friends, his name is Arthur Barenbaum. One of the things he challenged me with this year was, he said to me that teaching is the only profession that you have the exact same responsibilities on your first day as on your last day. And you may do that job for 20, 30 years. But it's how you define those responsibilities and the way you carry them out that defines your success as a teacher. And teaching is evolution in action. It's one of the only things that you can watch evolution happening in front of your eyes. You can watch it changing. Recently, one of my former students, I was just telling some of the people I'm sitting with that one of my former students, my first class, are now university graduates. And they're starting to contact me to just find me and say hi. And the first thing I want to say to them is almost, I'm so sorry I didn't know what I know now. You turned out okay, but wow, the way I teach now is so different than the way I would have taught you. And you turned out okay, but I would do it so differently if I could do it again. So there's two things that drive my practice. And one of them is my commitment to effectiveness. And I think that every day we go into those classrooms, we're in the trenches, we have little kids sneezing on us, we have computer technology issues, we have the kid whose hamster died the night before, and it's our job to be effective in our practice. And all the things that I bring to you are driven by my drive to be effective in the classroom. There's another thing that drives me. I have a life outside of this. I have children. I have a family. And one of the things that's really important to me is to be effective and efficient at what we do. It's early in the morning and we're all friends, but I think I can be honest with you. A little personal confession. When I first started teaching, I went to Teachers College in the days of learning centers. So we were encouraged to spend a small fortune on buckets and bins that she would then stencil carefully and intricately all the different centers around the classroom. And of course, one of them was the marking bucket. Does anyone have a marking bucket to this day? No? We don't have marking bins that you would put all the kids' stuff in? Well, in my first year teaching, I had a marking bucket. It was red. It's etched in my memory. And I would sit at my desk, and my first year, I placed my marking bucket precariously right on the edge of my desk for everyone to see, so my students knew exactly where to deposit their work at the end of the day. And at the end of the week, I would pick up my marking bucket, filled to the brim with stuff that I needed to mark, and trudge home with it. And every Sunday afternoon, I would look at my marking bucket, and I would plow my way through it, bring it back to Monday to give it back to my students. And by the next Friday, it was full again of all the stuff I needed to take home and mark. My next year, I got a little smarter, and I moved my marking bucket right from the edge of my desk where it was on display for everyone to see, kind of behind a file cabinet on a shelf. Not quite in predominant a place, but nonetheless, it still got full, and every Friday I trudged home with it. And this time when I got in my house, I would take off my shoes, I'd put down my marking bucket, and on Monday I would put on my shoes and pick up my marking bucket and bring it back to school. And then the following year, I discovered that, okay, this was a little embarrassing, so now I hid my marking bucket under my desk. And I tucked it under there where no one would see, and it was a badge of honor. I knew that you had to leave the building every Friday with a marking bucket, because that's just what we did. So every Friday I would trudge out with my marking bucket, but now I knew myself really well, and I knew that there was no point bringing it in because I wasn't even going to get to it. So I just left it on the front seat of my car. And Monday I brought it back in. That's not effective. It's not efficient. The things that I've been working on for the last few years have helped me to maximize not only my effectiveness in my classroom, but my efficiency. I now use my marking bucket as a goose paper box. So my kids put goose paper in there that's good on one side and they can reuse it. I've brought my assessment into my classroom during my instructional time, during the time when I can meet with my kids, so that it's purposeful, it's authentic, it's efficient, it's effective. It gauges them, gives me opportunities to give them immediate feedback, help them set goals, help them move forward. And I have my finger on my pulse of every one of my students, so I know where they are and what they're doing. And now Sunday afternoon, I can go skateboarding with my kids. I'm going to talk to you about my most recent book, The Right Beginning. And The Right Beginning is based on the simple principle of if kids need to know what they need to do, they need to know what it looks like. It's the begin with the end in mind principle. So we're going to do a little task together. I think on your desk you have a little piece of paper provided by the hotel, which is perfect for what we need to do. If you can find that, we're going to do a drawing task together. Very non-threatening. All right, somewhere on that piece of paper, don't worry, I won't assess it, I promise. Could you draw 2 circles? Could you draw a square? Could you draw a rectangle? And a triangle? And a trapezoid? Do we know what a trapezoid is? I know we're literacy teachers. It's a math concept. I'm sorry. And finally, one last thing to make it identifiable is yours. Make it yours. Okay. So why do we need to set targets with our kids? Could you please just have a conversation with somebody beside you about your house that you've just drawn and how it represents where you live? Did anyone draw a house? All right. Was anyone successful in the task? Did we know all the parts that went into it? There was no challenge for anyone, right? We knew all the parts, and it should have looked like this. Those are all the parts. That's how they fit together. What I find a lot of times when we're teaching kids is we give them all the parts and we just expect that they know how to put them all together. So the right beginning is about helping kids understand the end target, what it looks like in the end, how to take it all apart so you understand those pieces, and then putting them all back together.